This your boy CJ Saclara.
And this your girl RINA and C3.
Make sure y'all subscribe to CJ and RINA. Alright, today guys we have a reaction video on 7 eye-opening pieces of history.
They never taught you in school.
Okay guys, I see they're trying to talk. Alright, I know y'all ready, we're ready. Y'all ready?
We're ready.
Let's get it.
History can be pretty gross and brutal at times. And even though it's important to learn from the mistakes of our past, there are some historical events kids just aren't ready to find out about. For example, did you know Anne Frank's diary was heavily edited? And what about the creepy wedding night shenanigans of William of Orange? Oh, and trust me, you do not want to know what the pervert Christopher Columbus was really like. Which is a shame, as he's first on our list of 7 eye-opening pieces of history you weren't taught in school. Number 7. Columbus was a pedo-pimp. Christopher Columbus obviously wasn't the first to make it to the American continent. Actually, he never set foot on U.S. soil, as it's thought he only visited the Bahamas, Haiti, and Dominican Republic. But what he may have been is the very first man to begin an underage sex slave ring in the Americas, which is probably not how he'd like to be remembered, but tough tits, Chris, you dirty SOB. Upon his arrival, Christopher Columbus pressed many native people of the Americas into working down into the mines, as he considered them his property, so much so that he even began selling prepubescent girls, some as young as 9, as sex slaves to his own men, many of whom were known rapists and murderers. He also used native people as food to feed his dogs, mutilated around 10,000 of them by cutting off their hands, and in all was responsible for around 200,000 deaths in Haiti alone. So now you know this. Maybe let October 12th pass without a celebration next year. At 6, the National Socialist soda? For various reasons, YouTube doesn't like it when we mention a certain group of German people and their leader who terrorized the world between 1939 and 1945. So, in lieu of their actual titles, we shall refer to the man who led Germany through this period as Adolf Swiftler and his Fancy Party. Now, in the year 1940, Fancy Germany was placed under an embargo by the Coca-Cola Company due to the naughty things Adolf was getting up to. But Germany needed some soda to wash down all that dry, salty anti-Semitism, which was so popular at the time. So, the head of Coca-Cola Deutschland, Max Keith, decided to create a new product for the German market. He mixed whey, apple pomace, and a bunch of other gross German stuff to create an orange-flavored soda. And that drink is known today as Fanta. Huh, weird how they don't make a big thing about that connection to Fancy Germany in the adverts, ain't it? 5. Victorian death portraits. If your beloved grandpa passed away, how would you grieve him? Would you write a poem? Take a walk in his favorite park? Reminisce about old movies? Or maybe you just prop him up in his clothes and take a picture of his corpse? Smile, Grandpa! You look a little stiff. And why stop at Grandpa? Because the Victorians sure didn't, as they had a habit of photographing everyone, from mom and pop through to dead infant babies, with the bizarre ritual of post-mortem photography starting in the 19th century and continuing well into the 20th. This practice was supposed to help people get through the grieving process, but I'm not quite sure how the agony of losing a loved one would be helped by cuddling up to your dead kids for a picture. This bizarre routine replaced the original method of remembering the dead, which involved painting a death portrait. Imagine that, having to sit still for several hours while your mom's stinky corpse rots beside you. Yeah, that's how I'd want to be remembered. At 4, history's creepiest uncle. Do you have a creepy uncle in your family? You know, that one that leers at you over the Christmas dinner table, offers you $20 to go sing in the shower. But who have we pegged as history's creepiest uncle ever? Enter King Charles II of England, who watched his nephew William of Orange get it on with his new bride on their wedding night. Charles apparently shouted encouragement and cheered as William and his new wife Mary II consummated their marriage. But actually, maybe we've been too harsh on Charles here, because this was a pretty normal practice back in ye olden times. As when a newlywed couple went to bump uglies for the first time, they'd often be watched by their wedding guests, who would drink, dance, shout, and play music, even bringing water and food for the couple in case they needed a bang break. And in royal circles, the more powerful or important you were, the higher the number of people who wanted to watch your wedding night. William of Orange was actually the third of his name, and his father, William II, had an even weirder experience. He was 15 years old at the time, and if you think that's weird, his wife was the 9-year-old Mary Stuart. Eesh. Thankfully, tradition dictated that the consummation of a marriage could be considered complete if the two kids' naked legs touched just once. So William didn't have to pull a full-on Columbus in front of everyone. He merely kissed his young bride on the cheek, waited for his wife's dwarf to cut open her nightdress, because of course there was a midget involved too, and they simply went to sleep, consummating the marriage fully many years later, I hope. At number 3, Lincoln's killer's killer. Boston Corbett is known as the man who shot Abraham Lincoln, as on April 24, 1865, 9 days after Lincoln was killed by John Wilkes Booth, Boston's regiment was sent to apprehend the assassin, eventually cornering Booth and his accomplice David Harold in that tobacco barn in Virginia. Now, Corbett and his men were ordered to capture Booth alive, but he claims he saw Booth aiming a gun at him through a crack in the wall. So he shot Lincoln's murderer with his Colt revolver, severing John Wilkes Booth's spinal cord and causing his death 2 hours later. Some people criticized Boston's actions, whereas others called him a hero, saying that anyone who took on a presidential assassin had some serious balls. But they were wrong. Boston didn't have balls, because he'd cut them off when he was 26 with a pair of scissors. Boston Corbett had developed severe mental issues in his youth due to his frequent handling of poisonous mercury for his job. And one night, after seeing 2 prostitutes in the street, he became so offended at the prospect of arousal, he castrated himself in an astonishingly calm manner in order to avoid temptation and feel more like Jesus. I mean, a cold shower would have been easier, I'm just saying. Number 2, Hooker's Brigade. Did you ever wonder why we call women who sell their bodies for sex hookers? Well, some people believe it comes from a Civil War general called Joseph Hooker. And while there are a few examples of the word being used to describe ladies of the evening before his lifetime, his story is nonetheless pretty darn interesting. General Hooker was generous to his men. He realized that those who fight hard need to play hard, too. And so he hired huge legions of women to follow his troops around and keep the urges of his soldiers satisfied. But such generosity came at a price, because an 1861 report by the Union Army Medical Department discovered that a quarter of the entire army had some form of STD. And in 1875, someone even made this delightful syphilis map to show where the disease had spread to the most. As you can see, the areas where it's dark purple are of most concern, and that applies to either the map or your junk. And at number 1, Anne Frank's diary was edited. The Diary of Anne Frank offers a harrowing, personal account of what life was like for Jewish people under the fancy regime. Yeah, sorry, blame YouTube for us not being able to say that word. Anyway, there are a few interesting stories regarding Anne Frank's diary which you may not know. One of which covers the fact that when it was published as a book, it was missing a whole bunch of personal information. This is because the diary had been edited by the sole surviving member of the Frank family, Otto Frank, Anne's father. Otto was given his daughter's diary after he escaped when his camp was liberated, and upon reading it, he decided the world needed to hear his daughter's story, with a few minor alterations first. He cut out the parts where she talked about her period or discovering herself sexually. He removed most references to the boys she liked, and when he found that his daughter had gone into great detail about how obsessed her father was with fart jokes, he edited those too. Eventually, the unedited version of Anne's diary was released to the public and the world got to see more of the real Anne Frank. It wasn't pornographic, it wasn't gross. It was the tale of a normal girl and her relationship with her normal family, all of which was torn apart by the atrocities carried out by those people we can't mention without YouTube getting triggered.
That's a good one. Well, at least we know some history that we didn't know in school.
Dude, why don't they teach us history the way history is meant to be taught? Instead of just making us think that these people are good, and then they're really not good.
It's never going to be the same. YouTube may always give you what you want to.
YouTube gets triggered. We get triggered too.
Yes, we do.
We don't even learn the appropriate history in school, and we got all these days celebrating all these people. And look what they have done to America.
Yep, some things that people listen, they wanna be raised off of different things. So we wanna have the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me, let's tell you the truth. So you're gonna hear the truth.
I didn't know Fanta was made because of them.
I didn't know that either. Well, we learned a lot that we didn't learn in school. So guys, make sure y'all check this video out in the description below, comment below, and awesome!
Make sure you guys subscribe to CJ Arena. Also subscribe to the children's channel at CJ Arena Family.
Yes. Like always, peace.
Bye.